Hey, what is up everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we'll be looking at how to send emails from a Node.js application. I will be showing you how to do this step by step by building this basic contact form application. So if this sounds interesting to you, go hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. With that said, let's dive right into it. So sending emails from your website or application is a very crucial task nowadays. This can be used from many different situations. For example, verification email after a user has signed up, or when a user wants to reset their password. Or one of the most common use cases is to handle contact forms from the inside of your website. So how exactly does this email sending work? So we will have our Node application running on some server, and then we have our user. And we would like to send an email from our Node application to this user. But it's very important to understand that Node does not handle the direct sending of the email. We will use a third-party mailing service to handle the sending of emails and the security and so forth. Okay, so now that we know about the mailing service, there are a few options we can choose from. The first one, and this is only the few I'm going to mention, is Amazon Simple Email Service. Then we have Mailgun. There is also MailChimp. And then we have SendGrid. In this video, I'll be using SendGrid, and this is completely free. All you need to do is create a SendGrid account, and that's basically all. So if you're going to check on the SendGrid website, we go under the pricing tab. We can see there is a free tier that is absolutely free. We have up to 40,000 emails for the first 30 days. And then after that, we get 100 emails per day forever. So if your application is not going to be using more than 100 emails per day, this is a pretty good solution, and they are pretty cheap for scaling up to massive amounts of emails per month. So we'll be using them. If you click on the free tier, it's going to ask you to create an account, and I've already created an account. So once you've completed creating this account, you'll first have to go to the email you used and verify that email. They will send the email to you and then just verify it. And then once you're done with the email verification, you should be able to see this dashboard screen right over here. So this might change depending on when you watch this video, but we'll be looking for the same things during the tutorial. So once you get here, the first thing we need to do is, you can also see it from this tab here. The first thing we'll need to do is go into the settings, and then we'll go to sender authentication. So you can either click from this tab over here if you see it here, or you can go to settings and sender authentication. What sender authentication is basically just SendGrid will basically be sending our emails for us. So we don't have to log into our email every time and do the sending. So we give them access to some email address, and this sender will then be the email we would like all of our emails in our application to be sent from. So I'm just quickly going to fill this out. You can just fill out your own. Okay, once you have completed filling out this create sender form, you just say create, and then here we have created our sender. It will prompt you up here to tell you to go and identify this email you have just created. So once again, you'll just go into your Gmail. You'll go into your Gmail account, and you'll see this email from SendGrid. You'll just have to click on this verify email, and once that is done, we can continue. So now we have verified this sender email, and the last thing we'll need to do on the SendGrid account is go to the API keys tab, and create an API key. So if you want to read more about it, you can just read everything they're telling you over there. We go create API key and we just name it Node email service. You can name it whatever you'd like. And here we have different permissions you can set on this API key. I'm just going to give it full access, but the restricted access, you can set different things over here. So I'm just going to use the full access. Create view, and here we get the API key. So you'll have to copy this API key. So for security reasons, they won't be able to show you this again. So copy it from here and then just paste it. I'm going to open my VS Code and I'm just going to paste the API key in here for now. So with that done, we can say done. Now we are done with the SendGrid account. So now we can continue to the code. Okay, so once you are completely done with the SendGrid account setup and you've got your API key and you've created your sender, now we can come to our Node application. So basically I haven't done anything yet. I only have initiated my package.json and then just created a server.js file. So the package we're going to need to talk to SendGrid is called, so we can just say npm install at SendGrid mail, just like that. And if we install this package, once that is complete, so this application I'm building here is just a really simple application just to show you how to connect to the SendGrid API. So with that done, we can create a variable called sgmail and import the package we just downloaded. Then we can set on this variable, we can set the API key. So on this object we extracted by requiring the package, there is a method called setAPIKey. This method takes in, surprisingly, this API key we got from creating the account. So we can just paste it in here. I would suggest, if this is a production level application, that you put this in the environment variables, but for now I just want to make it obvious where everything goes. And when this is done, we only have 2 steps left. We create a message object. This message object will take in a few options we can set. The first one being to, and this just specifies where to do we want to send our email. So I'm going to send my email to my personal email address, and then from where do we want to send this. So this is important, that the from email you add here is the same as the sender verification email you used inside of SendGrid. So I'm going to say the full stack junkie at gmail.com. Once that is complete, we can add the subject of the email. So I'm just going to say testing node email service, and then text. You can either use text or HTML. For this application I'm just going to use simple text, and I'm going to say this is awesome email sent from Node app. And then we're almost done. We've finished creating the message object. The last thing we need to do is, on this object we imported up here, there is another method called send. And in this send, we basically just pass the message variable. So this send method takes in the message and then some callback. You don't have to pass in this callback, but I'll just use it for now. And this takes in some error and some info, or you can call it result, but it doesn't matter. So if there is an error, so the email did not send, we just want to console.log email not sent. If the email went through successfully, we want to log out email sent success, just like that. And with this all done, we can now test our application by going to our command line and running node server.js. Here you can see email sent successful was logged to the console. So now if we go to our Gmail account, I'm just going to bring it up over here, we can see this email in my account was sent from the Full Stack Junkie, and it says with the subject testing Node email service, and then this is awesome, email was sent from the Node app. So this is really simple. It's like 20 lines of code, even less if you do it like this. It's like 17 lines of code, and it just works awesome. So with this out of the way, we'll continue to integrate this setup into a contact form to just show you how to use this in a production level application. So stick around for that. Okay, so now that we understand how SendGrid works, let's implement what we have learned into a contact form application. So in order to build this, we're going to have to install two dependencies. So I'm just back again in that same project we used in the previous example. I just deleted all the code. I just kept the API key. So we have to install npm I, Express, and EJS. Express will be our web framework, and then EJS will just be our templating engine. So this application is going to be just a basic form that allows us to send emails from the form. So we can start by just creating a basic Express app. So we can say Express equals require Express, and set this equal, and initiate the Express variable inside of our app variable. And then we can say app.listen on some port variable. We'll set that port variable in just a second. And we can say console.log backticks server running on port, and then that port variable. So here we can say const port variable. This port variable should be equal to the process.env.port. That is, if that is not set, it should just run on port 5000. So this would be set in your process environment variables, else it would just choose that. So when we save this and say node server.js, we should see server running on port 5000. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're just going to set a few pieces of middleware and then set our templating engine. So we can say app.use, and here we are going to enable parsing of our body, of our request body. So we can say express.url encoded, extend, and false. So we use this to parse our incoming bodies for any data. So we're going to have a form and we want to read the data from the form. So this allows us to do that. And then we're going to need an app.use, another piece of middleware. And this should give us access to the public folder on our server. So this public folder will serve all of our static assets. These static assets include any JavaScript that you would need to serve from your server to your client, or any CSS files. So this would be used for our CSS, and being able to navigate to that folder, we're going to need the built-in Node path module. So we can say require path, and then we can just build up that path. You can say path.join and pass it in __ your name. So this just gives it the current directory of this server.js file, and then we can navigate to the public folder. And then the last thing we need to do is say app.set, and here we set our view engine equal to express EJS, just like this. And once this is saved, we're basically almost done with the entire setup. I'm going to copy and paste in the HTML and the CSS, as this is not a tutorial on those things. It's just seeing how to connect the two. So with this done, I'm going to create two folders. The first one being public. So this would serve our CSS, and then the next one will be views. This will serve our EJS templates. So instead of our views, I'm going to create contact.ejs and sent.ejs. So the contact form will contain the following HTML code. I'm just going to copy and paste it in. Just like this. I'll explain this in just a second. Basically, we have our title for the contact page. We have a link that links to our CSS we have to create. So let's quickly create that. In our public, we create a folder called CSS. And inside of this folder CSS, we create a style.css file. Okay, and it links to that file. Then we have a div that is basically just a container of our form. We have a heading of the form, say contact us, and then we have our form. This form makes a post request, so this is the method it uses, and then it has an action of /send email. We don't have that action yet, but we'll create it in just a second. Then we have our input groups for all of the inputs of our form. And if you don't know how a body parser works, this is important to note that we will be pulling the data with these names. So it's important to name these names on each one of the inputs so that we can extract from the request body with these names. So this is basically all this application does. This HTML does over here. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go into the sent EJS, and I'm just going to copy and paste this little bit of code into this. Basically just has a title of email sent, so this is the page you'll reach after your email was sent, and then once again just a link to that same style.css sheet. And then we just have a basic div and a h2 heading that just says your email was sent, and then a link button back to our main contact form. So I'm going to save that, and then the last thing I'll do is just paste in the CSS styling of this application, just like this. It's really simple, not much. I did not go overboard with the styling, and all of these code will be found in the link down in the description for the GitHub. So with this done, we can now only focus on creating or connecting our SendGrid to this application. Okay, so now we're back in our server.js file, and here we're just going to create our 3 routes. The first one is going to just render our basic contact form. So this route takes in the request and response, and here we're just going to say res.render, and we're going to give it the contact. So this EJS file right over here. So we are able to just say res.render contact because we set the view engine right over here. I'm just going to space it out like that. So with that done, we can quickly test this out by saying save and then running our Node application. We can say node server.js, and then we can go to our browser and open up a new tab, localhost 5000. And here we can see that contact form being loaded. So now that we see that works, we can create the next route. This route will be app.get /sent, and this will just render the sent EJS template. So we can say res.render the sent page. So if we save this and restart our server, I'm not using NodeMon, but it's okay. Restart our server, and then we go back here, refresh, and go to localhost 5000 /sent, and here we can see this your email was sent card being rendered. So if I click here, it should take me back to the / route. Okay, so that all works great. The last thing we need to do is create the post route. So our form will submit to this route. So we can say app.post, and I'm just going to call this send email, and I'm calling it send email because inside of my contact EJS form, you remember the form makes an action a post request to /send email. So both of these should be equal in this method right over here. So we can say app.post send email, and then we can say request response. And here we would like to pull out all of the data coming from this form. So we can say the following const, and then we destructure from our request.body, and we are able to destructure data from our body because of this piece of middleware right here. It used to be body parser, but now body parser is built into Express. So here we can pull out name, surname, and email. And as I mentioned before, it's important to remember that these name, surname, and email is the names that is set on the elements right over here. Name, surname, and email. Okay, so with that done, we can now create the function that will be used to send our email. And what I like to do is create a different folder called utils. And inside of this utils folder, I create a send email.js file. In here, we will require that sgmail and set it equal to require at SendGrid mail, just like that. And then we can create a function called const send email and set this function so that it takes in a few things. It would take in the to, the from, the subject, and then the text. So these are all the things we added to the message object in the example previously. So before we do that, we set the sgmail and we set that API key, set API key, and then I just paste in the API key that I commented out above here, just like this. I can copy it out and then just pass it into there. Once again, I will suggest adding this to your environment variables. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to quit my server and I'm going to install a package npm install.env, just like this. And then I will create two files. I'll say touch.env and then .gitignore, just like this. And inside of my env, I will create SendGrid API key and set that equal to the API key. And save this. Now I can go to my send email file and I can say require.env.config. Now I have access to the environment variable, so I can say process.env.SendGrid API key, just like this. So now you won't be able to see this key. And then important, so that if we submit this to GitHub or push this anywhere, in the gitignore we just say .env, so now it will ignore this file right over here. So this is just used for our local development. Okay, so with that done, all we need to do is inside of this function, we will create that message object. And this message object will contain the to, and this to will just be equal to the to that is coming from the function. So the same for the from and subject and then the text. So we'll just have to structure these inside of our server or inside of this route. So this makes this function reusable from anywhere in your application. So now the last thing we need to do is sgmail.send, and here we can pass it the message and then some callback function. This function takes in an error or some result, and here we can just, if there is an error, we console.log email not sent, error occurred. just like that. And else, if that is not the case, we can say console.log and just log out email was sent, just like that. And the last thing we need to do is export this send email function. So you can say module.export, set it equal to send email, just like that. Now we can import this file, so this function we're going to use, inside of our server.js file. So I'm going to import it just below here, send email, and require from the utils. I can go into the utils folder and the send email file. So now I have access in the send email. So right over here, I'm just going to construct my output and set this equal to some HTML. So previously I did not use HTML, but I'm going to show you how to use HTML inside of this application. So firstly, I'm going to use a p tag, and emit for some reason is not working now, but it's okay. So in here, I want to say you have a new contact request, and then I can say h3, and here I will say contact details. So whatever the person filled into the form, I can display right over here in the form of an unordered list, just like this. And then allies, and in here I can say name is equal to, and then insert that name variable. I'm just going to copy this down for all of the other three. Here I have surname, and here I have email. So this will be sent to your account. So this person wants you to reach out to them or has a question about your page. So you can add on our application, you can add like a message field or something, and then you can display the message inside of the email, but for simplicity I'm not doing that now. And then add the email right over here. And with that done, all we need to do is say send email, which is this function we just imported at the top, and pass it in the following things. We need to pass it in the to, the from, the subject, and the text. So this output will be our text. Our subject will just be a new contact request. So let's create the from and the to. So we can say const from and set the from equal to, remember this is important, to the full stack junkie. So it's important to set this email, the from, should be from the sender you used in your SendGrid account. So the one you verified, this is important. The to you can dynamically change as you'd like, but for instance, say you want a user to send something to another user, it will be sent from you to another user, but here I'm just going to send it to my own account. So I'm going to say to just like that, and then the subject. So you can construct the subject differently. This is just really to show the point, and this would be new contact request. And with that done, we just have to pass it into the send email function. So we can say the to is equal to, the from is equal to from, the subject is equal to subject, and then the text is equal to output, just like this. And once we're done sending the email, we can now redirect to the sent page. So we can say res.redirect to /sent, just like this. And we're basically done with this application. This should work now. So let's go and try it out. I'm going to just make sure I saved everything. Okay, so let's try it out. I'm going to clear this and say node server.js. We have no errors, which is great. We can go back to our application, we can reload. Everything seems to work fine. I'm just going to delete this message right over here so you can see everything is clean. No emails here. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did in the trailer. I'm going to say the name is Jeff Bezos and the email is jeff@gmail.com. And now if I send, it should redirect me to the email was sent page. And then when I go back to my email inbox and I refresh, I can see I got an email from the Full Stack Junkie. And here we can see we have a problem. It is actually literally printing out the HTML tags, which is wrong. So let's go back to our send email function. And instead of rendering the text here, we can say HTML and set that HTML equal to the text or the output that we receive from here. So if this saved, let's restart the server and try this again. I'm going to delete this once again just to make sure you believe me. And then we go back to the form. I'm going to do the same thing, Jeff Bezos, just like this, jeff@gmail.com. And then I'm going to send. Your email was sent. And then I'll go into my email, I'll refresh, and here I can see once again an email was printed, and now the HTML was actually printed out. So you have a new contact request, contact details, name Jeff, surname Bezos, and then email. You can obviously add as much fields as you'd like from your form. And then the important thing to note when handling forms, it's always important to do form validation. So we do not want a user to keep on sending emails without having them filling in this form first. So we don't want them to keep on sending blank emails like this, because the blank emails will be received on this side. As you can see, nothing was logged. So form validation is something I'll leave to you to do. But I hope you found this video insightful, and if it helped you and it was good, please remember to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment down below, and then I will see you in the next one. Cheers.